Ezekiel 35:1. Moreover, the word of Yahweh came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Mount Seir, and prophesy against it, and say unto it, Thus saith the Lord power, Behold, O Mount Seir, I am against thee, and I will stretch out my hand against thee, and I will make it most desolate, and I will lay thy cities, that thou and thou shalt be desolate, and thou shalt know that I am Yahweh, because thou hast had a perpetual hatred, and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword, in the time of their calamity, in the time that their iniquity had an end. Therefore, as I live, saith the Lord power, I will prepare thee unto blood, and blood shall pursue thee. Since thou hast not hated blood, even blood shall pursue thee. Call halal Yahweh Ba'Shem Nabashai Ba'Shem B'Kwadash. Double honors unto the apostles, double honors to the elder bishops, salutations to all my fellow laborers, doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so now more so than ever. To the scattered elect that are scattered around the four corners of the earth, that be like unto the speckled bird among the heathen, that look like the heathen. And to the Akwath that are listening and learning, to you I say Shalom. This is your brother Malcolm from the branch of the Great Millstone. All right, and this is Nick Fuentes from RWW News. You can just look it up and you'll see his face. RWW News, meaning White Ring Watch News. Openly racist and hatred. Remember what I always said, beware of pale men with bald faces and neckties. They're the most dangerous individuals the world has ever seen. They're ticking time bombs, and they're ready to lash out even at their own, because there is a war going on between Amalek and the rest of Esau and many of the Edomite women. All right. And I've been saying that for quite some time in very many videos over the years, man. And you have to understand, women gravitate to power, and a lot of Edomite women can clearly see that their men, that their race is falling. They are very aware of it. There's plenty of them making videos about it, stating it, how they're ready to be breeders and that whole sort of thing. Because women gravitate to power, and they can see the power structure is about to change. You can just look at modern TV and television shows and cartoons and see that. Because you see things in TV and cartoons and movies that you've never seen before. All right? Because this man completely whitewashed history, covered it up, and, you know, and made it beneficial to himself. Matter of fact, I have a nice little image here for you. All right? From their brother Kuti Mera. The invasions of the body snatchers. Swarthy people, we know, painted white. And that's exactly what they did, man. Swarthy. All right? This man is going to admit how he hates this time period, and he longs for the days of old. All right? He longs for the days of the Catholic monarchy, crusades, and inquisitions. And what was going on in those days? The murder, subjugation, and oppression of Jacob. Where so-called white males, this newly found thing is white. That's what this whole whitewashing of history is about. All right, this whole thing of white was you know came into existence. All right, which is a fabrication. You can see the dark icon of the swarthy icon, and then history whitewashed it. So he's going to talk about time periods, and in those time periods, and he says he's really a 1700 man from the 1700s. That's really his mind process and what he wants to be, what he wants. And that was a time when a lot of the whitewashing was going on, from the 15th century to the 17th century. And the pseudoscience of whiteness was created. And now that's failed them. But without any further ado, the devil, Nick Fuentes.
Yeah, I support autocracy. Yeah, I think wars are legitimate. I am a 19th century thinker. I'm an 18th century thinker, okay? 21st century sucks, okay? The 21st century is trash. You think the 21st century is good? It's not. The 21st century started with the false flag in New York. Yeah, so that's legitimate. You know, going to war with another great power, that's the worst thing ever.
And anyone in tune knows what group of humanity was behind the whole thing in New York that he's talking about. His own people, but the small hatters. All right? He's got a lot of hatred and issues with the small hatters.
But 9/11, doing that to your own people, well, that's fine. And then 20 years in the Middle East and torture and all this other stuff, yeah, that's totally appropriate. I mean, just, you know, these people are insane and these people are ridiculous. So, that's an 18th century mindset. Yeah, and I'm an 18th century man. The 18th century was kind of epic. Well, actually, there was a lot of problems, but it's better than what we have now.
Yeah, the 18th century, what happened was that Jake became free. And then Jake built settlements all throughout America that were better than the settlements that his people had. And so what did they do? Between the late 1800s and the 1920s, they burned them all and destroyed them. Burnt them to the ground, flooded them out, and stole all the land that Jake had appropriated, that Jake had actually gathered into himself. They made and then set up the Jim Crow era and set up all these and false history and made sure Jake had a second and third class education and was denied bank loans, business homes, home loans. Then set up a system to railroad them to jail, even coming all the way up to the modern era, you know, with that meeting that the rappers were called into to change their lyrics. Because these record producers said that a lot of their investors had stock in the prisons and they needed those prisons filled. So all of a sudden, rap became gangster rap. Now trap music. All right? It was all a setup, man. But he longs for this. This is, as you can see, right here. I'll let you look at that. You can freeze it on the screen there. All right, you can see what they did was they took certain people that were in certain parts of Europe and certain parts of North Africa, and now these people are labeled as white. Okay? So it says here, I'm going to read it. What it says, free white persons, and this is from the Black's Dictionary. I have the 6th edition behind me on the shelf here, but this is from the 4th edition. All right, so it says, and I'm going to look to see if mine matches up to this same definition, but it says, free white persons referred to as the Naturalization Act as amended by July 14th, 1870, has meaning naturally given to it when it's first used in Statute 103C3. So it's telling you that's the statute. There was no such thing as white people. They created it, man. It was created. All right. It says, meaning all the persons belonging to European races, then commonly counted as white, and their descendants, including such descendants of countries to which they have immigrated. It says, including European Jews, more or less intermixed with peoples of Celtic, Scandinavian, Teutonic, Iberian, and Iberian. All these places that I'm mentioning were full of black people, and there are relics to prove it. But yet they stop. They don't go back far enough to the history when the so-called black people were there. They literally start this history from their Hollywood lies, speaking of the 15th century during the Renaissance, late 14th century. I mean, or early 14th, yeah, late 14th century going into the 15th century. All right, they literally whitewashed history and pretended that if these places that I'm reading didn't have, were not full of dark-fleshed people, when the bones and the relics and the images of them is if it's not millions of them, it was so many they couldn't hide them all, destroy them all. All right, it says including the Iberian, Latin, Greek, Slavic descendant includes Magyars, descendants of Spain and Portugal, of South Russia. It said it does not mean Caucasian race or Aryan race or Indo-European races, nor mixed races, Indo-European Dravidian. It stops right there. But it says it right here says Moorish inhabitants of Spain and Portugal. Now, we all know that a Moor, what a Moor means. All right, a blackamoor. I remember meeting, I used to work with a woman who was married to a guy from Morocco who was tawny, you know, like a light brown skinned man. And he, you know, and, but yet she still wanted to say that her child was darker than her father. So she had this little brown baby, a little, very attractive, Edomite woman, blonde, pretty curvy thing, but she aged pretty quick. I saw her not too long ago. You know, she didn't age too well. But nevertheless, she wanted to still say that her brown child was white. All right? That Morocco, and I just watched another video where some chick was from Morocco talking about her whiteness. No. The Moors in Portugal, the Moors that were kicked out of Portugal and Spain, and the Sephardic Jews that were among them, and they were all so-called black people, man. Stop playing. All right? It's ridiculous to say otherwise. And these people just hate real history so much, they whitewashed it. So they long for the days when they labeled themselves white and made themselves superior. Let's click to another video where his friend is complaining, Patrick Howley, on the same news channel. Okay, see the Right Ring Watch. Because this video would definitely have a part 2.
Every single...
Because after we identify the fact that Edom is against Edom, the pale male versus the pale male, you know, the small hatter versus the other Edomites, okay? Then you're going to see, you know, just yet another, because I've got so many, you know, how Edomite women also are against, you know, their men and their people, because the main people that are exposing the history that was covered up by these people about the atrocities that these Christians, these Catholics did, is their women.
Of this crooked, wicked system is mobilizing to screw me and everyone like me.
This nigga
and
pussy
no
hurt.
one is coming to save us. And yes, I'm complaining about it. Where's the manager? I want to see the manager. I want to speak to the manager. I have a fucking complaint.
Change your tampon, B. Change your tampon, bro.
There's my
Damn.
Karen moment. I want to talk to the manager. I'm tired of waiting in line when I know that the line is simply leading to genocide. There's no more waiting in line. I'm going to be listened to. We are all going to be listened to because we are getting together. We are teaming up. We are unifying with them.
Yeah, so these right wingers, but here, they're getting together, but just getting back on his buddy. You know how he be so proud of history, because they're what, you know, they whitewashed history of people who were swarthy, who were tawny. All right, swarthy. It says being of dark hue, of dusky complexion, tawny. In warm climates, complexion of men is universally swarthy or black. The Moors, the Spaniards, the Italians, more swarthy than the French and the Germans and the English. So, but yet, all being swarthy and tawny though. Even what's his name? Let me go to my evidence folder here, Salakia. Benjamin Franklin was complaining about the swarthiness of the Germans and the tawdiness of the Germans. All right? Because why? They hadn't completely gotten them, all the dark people, out of Germany yet at that time. He talked about it in this book right here. All right? It's called Observations Concerning the Increase of Mankind, Peoples and Countries. All right? In this book by Benjamin Franklin, he wrote, hold on, let me see. He talked about, let me see if I actually have the quote. I'll just have another definition of swarthy. I was trying to find the quote, but basically he wrote about, he called them tawny and swarthy, and how that the Germans couldn't inherit their skin color, for they were tawny. He said most of the world was swarthy and tawny. All right. And he was complaining about the German. Ah, there you go. Infamous from Proto-Germanic swatter. All right. So these Germans were swarthy people. But yet you watch Gladiator and all these different movies. And what do they show you? They show you all these battles and during the first century and through the Dark Ages and then going up into the medieval time with the Vikings and all that. They show you so-called white people, and that's clearly not true, man. All right, white people were getting Europe back, starting in the late 1300s, and were fully came back into power by the 1500s. Hence the Renaissance. Renaissance means rebirth, and that's biblical. Is when you go to Malachi. Let's go to Malachi, the 4th chapter. It said Esau says he will rebuild, and when was that? That's the Renaissance. Let's see, Malachi 1. Yeah, Malachi 1 and it reads, the burden of the word of the Lord to Israel by Malachi. I have loved you, saith Yahweh, yet ye say, wherein have thou loved us? Was not Esau Jacob's brother? Saith Yahweh, yet I loved Jacob, and I hated Esau and laid his mountains and his heritage waste for the dragons of the wilderness. Whereas Edom saith, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places. Thus saith the Lord of hosts. They shall build, but I will throw down. They shall call them the border of wickedness and the people against whom the Lord have indignation forever. It's gonna hate you Edomites forever, man. And you did. You were brought down, and then you got the dominion back. All right. And here is the time period when you were brought down. Because speaking about those Germans, this is from the 1540s, this tapestry here. And it's showing you Israelites, brown people, swarthy people, tawny people. You can see the different shades of brown fighting the wildlings, the wild men from the forest. That was Esau Edom. So all those great castles and buildings built throughout Europe, that was built by so-called Negroes. But yet, you watch every movie and they're going to show you a bunch of men that look like him. The Viking movies and the Viking series, the Last Kingdom series. All right? They caught up in their lives, man. But let's get back to this war between Esau and then and the third wave, and the third part being his woman, which will probably be in part 2.
They're like-minded patriots, and we are realizing that the system's never going to be there for us, and we are sick and tired. We are sick and damn tired of being disparaged, of being told that we are lazy, of being told that we are bad people, of being told that we're whining about.
So the system fails him the same way that they had institutionalized racism that kept Jacob from prospering since forever, since they destroyed, all our towns and our ways of making money here in America, and then set up the Jim Crow laws, all right, to so much that the Nazis were studying that, as they were oppressing, once again, that war between Esau and Esau, as they were oppressing Amalek, the Small Hatters, around the time right before the Second World War. Okay?
The fact that we are being replaced in our own country, which we actually loved, even though it doesn't love us back anymore. We are sick and tired of being seen as Goyim, who can just...
You see? Being seen as Goyim. What they tell Jake when they set all them systems up, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. But see, now, it don't feel good when you get told you're lazy and the system don't work for you no matter how hard you try. And his own people calling them Goyim. Because guess what? No Small Hatters, they're Edomites too.
They sent over to every crooked Hunter Biden oil war that they took up. We have had enough.
He's mad about the wars in the oil world. The oil wars.
We hate your system. We hate being kicked down. We hate watching our lives year by year drift away from us. We hate realizing that we don't have a future. We hate realizing that we don't have a stake in this. And you know,
you're right. You don't have no future. All right. This is Mark 3 and 24, and it reads, "And if a kingdom be divided against itself," I'm going to start at 23. "And he called unto him, and he said unto them in parables, how can Satan stand against Satan? How can the adversary be against the adversary?" Because see, when the Israelite kingdom split, when the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom split, when the kingdom of Judah separated from Jerusalem, or the kingdom of Israel, we fell. And his people, for the most part, have been in rulership over us ever since. Except for that period, that 1,000-year period, from the late 200 AD all the way up until the 1400s. All right. So that 1,000-year period was, we were actually ruling over them, but they whitewashed that history, and that's why they've been so vicious and violent toward us, and so cruel toward us, because that was revenge. You got to understand, man. We took down their precious Roman Empire. All right, we took over all of Europe, and they're pissed about that. All right, and the fact that history is coming out now, they're pissed about that too. But Mark 3 and 23, "And he called them unto him and said unto them in parables, how can Satan stand against Satan? If a kingdom be divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. And if a house be divided against itself, that house cannot stand. And if Satan rise up against Satan and be divided, he cannot stand but have an end." Call halal Yahweh Bashem Abishai, Bashem Rakakudash. Double honors to the apostles, elders. Double honors to the elder bishops. Salutations to all my fellow laborers, you warrior prophets. And see you in part 2. Shalom.